Download the app from the App and Play Store.
I'm in conversation with Dr. Selva Pankaj, CEO of Region Group, and we're talking about our changing world on Sunrise. Now, this chapter is titled, How Much Are You Worth?
Yep.
Now, Selva, there's something here which says that we need to remember each one of us, we're an amazing, infinitely valuable creature. We're unique, that we're worth a whole lot more than meets the casual eye. And you've actually put a sum to it. You've said that the average person is worth about $85 billion.
Yeah. It's a research. I think it's a number, but I think it's wrong to sort of just talk about the number. But what it really means is we are worth a lot.
Then what we think ourselves, is that what you're saying?
That's right. So the value of us, what's sort of inherent in, and this going back to the inside-out education, we are worth so much. And I think in this world, within the life that we are living, we can achieve so much if we believe we are worth that much. And that's the message, is rather than the number. So we can achieve whatever we want. And in order to do that, we need to go back to the law of nature, and also sort of going back to the whole thing, we must understand everything is energy. And it's proven by science, it's proven by theology. So we just need to understand everything is energy, and it's different frequencies we are in. So once you have all those understanding, you unlock your value.
You also say how every person is a business for themselves, right?
Absolutely.
And you say that you're responsible for your own growth, for your own development. And you're looking at, even when you're looking at yourself individually, you're looking at pretty much a business model which would involve, a department that looks after finance and production and sales and research, exactly as you would run a business.
Yeah.
That is the way we ought to run our lives too.
Absolutely.
How does that work practically?
I think we're just sort of relating to, because our sort of focus is about helping people and making them understand in different ways. And one of the ways to understand is, most people are working and they are generating wealth, revenue for themselves, and we thought, okay, why don't we explain in that way to make it easier and relate to them? So the whole thing about finance, without finance, nothing happens. So we in fact we have a lesson later on talks about finance, and the next one is production. If you don't produce anything, you can't really survive, and you got to produce something in life, either as service or as a product that we do in our day-to-day life. And if you don't sell those products or services, you're not going to get the finance. And the most important thing then is the research, because you constantly need to improve yourself, and that comes with your study, and programs like this is the research. And I think a lot of people sometimes just do the finance and the production and the sales, and then they produce the same thing throughout their life, even though the world is changing, and the world itself, the universe, is constantly expanding. And if you even go back to the basics of how the world, it's started a small thing and expanding. So every day is expanding. Are we expanding? In order to expand, you got to study. That's the only way to grow. And even though we thought, and I personally thought, when I've come out of university or finish your accountancy exam, I just, that's it. In fact, we are actually getting started there. So the research is all about, I just say, it's research, but it's about studying about your sector, studying about yourself, studying about what you are doing, how can you do better. By doing all of that, your production becomes better. And then by production becoming better, your sales goes up, your stock price goes up.
I suppose it would be important to reiterate here something you've said before, that staying still is not an option, because nobody stays still. Either you're growing or you're actually diminishing in a way, right?
Absolutely.
So if you think that, just by being in this loop or just by being in my comfort zone, I'm all right, you're actually not at that same place at all.
Absolutely.
Unless you're working on self-improvement and growth.
Absolutely, because everything is moving. Is a motion of notion, they call it. Everything is moving. Whether we like it or not, we can't see it through our naked eye. But the law of nature is everything is moving. And it's the time. The best way to look at it, can we stop the time? So if you can't relate to it, and if you can't see it and say the time is moving, we are here for a short period of time, the time is moving. If you don't move with the time, we're just going to be behind. And as you absolutely correctly said, either you're growing or you're disintegrating. They call it, some people will call call it diminishing. To be put it bluntly, you're dying. And, it's very much so. Either we are growing or we are dying. And the choice is ours. And all you got to do is you just need to go. And in order to grow, you got to study. And that there's no other way. And I think sometimes, even as adults, we just think, my daughter is doing GCSE this year. And if I don't study, I'm falling behind. So we must emphasize the need. And programs like this, that's what we are doing. It's lifelong learning. And you really need to engage in some sort of reading, studying. And if you don't have a good library, if you don't read something, you're not going to get anywhere.
This is where you also talk about perception, which I found fascinating. Who we really are, who people think we are.
Yeah.
And you talk about this little exercise that we can do, which is to get 3 good friends to write about us very honestly and very objectively what they think our strengths and our weaknesses are, right? How does that help us do you reckon that would allow us to gauge how people perceive us?
Yeah, but it's we don't need to. I think the exercise is to put it into context, and I think what we are really saying is how the people perceiving about it. That doesn't mean that we need to conform again or do things what they need to be. I think it is a way of understanding it. But the problem is, I think we're talking about on one of the lines, and then it says, "I am who I think somebody else think I am." And that's what it's about. So I think who I am is not what I think, not what they think,
but how I've defined
but
it.
I think what they think I am. That's an interesting thing. I think it came on a Reader's Digest, I think, and we put it into the program. So it says, it's not what I think I am, it's not what you think I am, what I think, who you think I am. So it's sort of what they think I am, and I think, that's how I need to be. So it's again in a false world we are living. So it's all get a bit complicated. The best way to do that is leave everything, go to your inside-out education, be who you are, respect the law of nature. You are at ease. You really don't need to worry about what other people are thinking about you. But you got to stick to the rules. You got to stick to the law, and then you're fine.
Nonetheless, you are saying that we would benefit from knowing what, as you're saying, if our true friends kind of...
Yes. Because of self-reflective again. So this is again, you're constantly re-evaluating yourself. That doesn't mean you conform. So you're looking at things, you're gauging things from externally. So it's the senses are there for a purpose. We're crossing the road, you just need to know a car is coming. So that's what the senses are there. But you don't sort of drive your entire life by the senses. And that's the key. So it's a fine balance, what we are talking about. And when you go deep and understanding the text in that, it'll say, yes, it's important, but ultimately it's inside out.
Now, Selva, for a moment, going back to what we said earlier about how every person is a business for themselves. You also say that being true, as a business, we need to think about present profit and about future growth.
That's right.
So does that mean think about our actions today?
That's right.
And think about how it's going to impact our future. Is that what it is?
Absolutely. I think, that goes back to the initial lesson about setting goals. I think you really need to live today. The present is so important, and you've got to concentrate on every activity, as we said. So that's important. But whilst we are doing that, you've got to have a purpose. You've got to have a goal. And that's what we are relating to in another way in here. So what do you really want to do? What is your real purpose? And I think you've got to continuously seek for that. And once you're seeking for that, then you get excited. You get up every day seeking for that. If you really don't have a goal, you just sort of, just getting up there, going with the flow, and then you're not getting anywhere. That's going back to the tiptoe. And someone said, I was reading another book the other day, they said, sometimes we kill ourselves to death every day. Because we are not doing anything that we really like. And if you really ask someone, why are you here? What's your real purpose? I don't know. Someone say, I'm surviving. And what's the point of surviving? Have a goal. Just get out and do it.
Going back to, again, a couple of episodes ago in the earlier session when we'd spoken about how you can count I mean, it is a very, very small percentage of people who actually know what their goal is. Remember, we talked about how, other than the generic being happy, being successful, a specific goal, a specific target, and then a specific plan of working towards that goal, right? Again, it boils down to, something like that, something along those lines, right? What do you mean when you say your future is unlimited?
Because that's coming back to your ability. So you can do anything you want in the future. So when you say future is unlimited, is what you can achieve in results is unlimited, what we really mean. But going back to what we are talking about is the programs of this nature. And this particular program we are doing and the book that we are launching is all about to help the human population to unleash this, because I think that's what we are not doing. We just stopped our education from the degrees, or we just learn our technical piece of our education. If you're a lawyer or accountant or a surgeon, you just learn your own thing, but you're not really learning the laws of nature, how everything works. And that's so important. That's why our Changing World in Sunrise and all the other initiatives we are taking on books and our programs and our conferences is all about sharing this information.
Again, in this chapter, of course, which is titled, How Much Are You Worth? You have gone back to highlighting and underlining how important it is for us to start thinking like, acting like, behaving like that person we eventually want to become, right? And is that to kind of remind ourselves constantly where we are headed and to see us there already, to help us on this path?
Absolutely. And if you really look at some of the leaders, and I love to read about the memoirs of leaders or companies, and if you really understand and look at it, most of them, before achieving what they have achieved,
mentally, they've already
they
been
were already there. I mean, Churchill, if you read Churchill's books, as many times he said, I won the war before I even started the war. So I think people are already there, and they say they fuse from there. So they just have the ability, the imagination is one of the key tools the human beings have got, which animals don't have. And then the imagination allows them to get to that spot. Then fuse from there to get to where they want to, and it's a skill. It comes from your subconscious mind, and it's your ability, imagination. I think Napoleon Hill talks about it. He said he's one of the marvelous and miraculous thing the human beings are given is imagination. Everything happens on imagination. These mics are imagination. This recording is imagination. So YouTube is imagination. So it's all about imagination. But these creators are able to, and what we are really teaching here is, or sharing here is, everyone can be creative. And then people say that, isn't it? Artists are creative, musicians are creative. We all are creative in our own way. What is creation? Again, we follow the masses. So we all are creative. And then what do you want to create? You want to create something what you like.
And you also talk about how if you do twice as much, you will receive twice as much as well, right?
Yeah, this goes back to cause and effect. So it's you do twice, thrice. What you put is what you get. There is no exaggeration. The nature don't have any favors, or it doesn't know. You can't keep a log of everything. It's like the gravity, as I said. How does gravity works? Nobody can explain that. It works, and it pulls you down. And if you go and do something against the gravity, you will fall, or you'll do something if you go in the wrong speed. So what you put is what you get.
And to sum it up, would you say that to get to that level of where you imagine yourself to be, would you say that if we increased our effectiveness, then automatically we would raise our productivity rather?
I think it's a learning process. I mean, that's what Letha Fielder and this particular program we are doing, Sunrise, and the books, as I said, it is a learning process, and it's so internal. And I think our education system so far is, we may know everything about this, what we are talking about it on these topics, people might understand, they can repeat themselves, but that doesn't mean they're going to go and do it. It's about learning that language, and then that happens subconsciously, and at that time only action starts. Then the action creates the reaction, and the reaction gives the results, new results, and it changes the circumstances. So it's a process, and I think that's what our job is, to keep emphasizing this to the people, and therefore the 1%, 5%, or whatever the percent we say, will become 10% by the time perhaps we pack our bags.
The app available from the App and Play Store.